The Tenontosaurus in the Jarl is a well-rounded herbivore. It's not the largest herbivore, but it doesn't need to be. Its mix of speed, stamina, and defense gives it plenty of tools to survive in a world full of predators. The Tenno's main weapon is its ability to inflict bleed damage with its kicks, which forces carnivores to think twice about reckless attacks. Combined with its powerful tail slap, it can punish predators that get too close while still having enough speed to reposition or make a clean escape. Whether you prefer roaming the map alone or moving in groups for safety, the Tenontosaurus holds its ground as a resilient and dangerous choice that predators underestimate at their own risk. And today, you will watch me live through the eyes of the Tenno. The Tenno has to be one of my favourite herbivores to play. With its stamina high and bleed through its kicks heavy, it makes it a tough dinosaur to fight. However, that being said, playing it alone is the challenge we face today. Upon realising that I've spawned close to Delta, the bridge was where I had to get to start my journey in order to reach the sanctuary. Sanctuary is a fresh-spawned herbivore's natural go-to in order to find the mushrooms that will aid in an early growth. However, the first feat I had to get past was this cliff. Sizing up the cliff and finding the best way down was my first step towards the sanctuary. I found what looked like a good point to slide down. After making it down the cliff successfully and running towards the bridge, I finally found it, seeing it in the distance. Getting over the bridge without encountering a carnivore was my main objective, as the bridge is a one-way highway to death as a fresh-born crossing, as there is only one exit and one entrance. As I'm approaching the bridge, I'm listening out in case I can hear anything, looking around to make sure I have safe passage across the bridge. Once reaching the sanctuary, the next thing is finding the mushrooms. I got rather lucky with finding one straight away. The Delta Sanctuary tends to field a lot of mushrooms, however running around finding them is the task at hand. Once you reach a certain growth, bees start to attack you. This is when I had to leave my safe space and go find food elsewhere, greeting a galley on my way out. The world outside of the sanctuary for a baby herbivore is scary. It starts off hiding amongst the bushes, eating gastroliths to reduce your stomach faster so you are able to eat more diet for a faster growth. I knew of a place that was close by, where I would be safe while I lived my hidden life, only coming out of the bushes for food, water, and to ingest more gastroliths. The aim was to grow as fast as possible so that I was able to defend myself the best I could against any threats I faced. While I lived my life hidden amongst the bushes, I heard a lot of other dinosaurs in the distance. At first, it was only a mire, but my eyes lit up when I heard another Tenno. I knew the life of a solo Tenno would be hard, so the aim to find other Tennos that I could befriend was a goal of mine. Herbivores are typically herd species, finding strength amongst others. This is what I wanted to achieve, but for now, I had to stick to the bushes till I grew a little bigger so that I could defend myself. I had finally grew big enough to get my second mutation. I chose to pick tactile endurance as it converts damage to stamina, a mutation that is one of the strongest mutations a herbivore can get. I had ventured elsewhere in hopes to find more diet, lipids to be exact. However, it was to no avail. I found myself wandering back towards Delta, but this time I was further upriver. Still desperately hoping to sniff for lipids, I realised I had to settle for a life of only protein and carbs till I was able to find lands that grew lipids in more abundance. Now that I had grew a little more since hearing that Tenno, I decided to go towards where I last heard them call, which was towards the bridge, in hopes that they would call once more. To my surprise, call they did. After ingesting a little more gastroliths, I eagerly made my way towards the bridge, in hopes that I could reach the Tennos that I had been hearing call for a while now. Once I made my way over the bridge, my hopes were high. Thinking that I had finally found other Tennos to befriend, I rushed towards them without a thought in my mind. However, what I did not anticipate was carnivores in the area, a fright they gave me. Knowing I was still young, I called out for the Tennos, knowing they were nearby in hopes that they would come to my aid. Although I had made new friends, the Sarahs still wanted to fight us. We took safety on a rock, however it was short-lived when one of my new friends took a hit from a Herrera, causing them to bleed rapidly. At this point, the decision to activate fight or flight started, and fight we took. Upon realizing my remaining friend decided to take refuge on a nearby island, I decided to run. Thinking that I had lost them, I decided to continue to run, unfortunately running straight into another Sarah, once again activating fight or flight. Taking my chances with any crocs in the area, I chose to jump into the water and hide amongst bushes on a nearby island, hoping that I had lost the third Sarah that I had ran into. After successfully running away from the Sarahs, I was able to heal the damage I took from the fight. Upon sniffing for food, I realized that a migration had spawned here. To my surprise, it grew lipids on the island I took safety on, allowing me to finally gain back the perfect diet that I once had through the sanctuary mushrooms I ate when I was still young. After I had finished drinking, I decided that I needed to look for more diet to continue to grow faster. To my surprise, the lipids I had sniffed on my island wasn't the only one that grew with the migration, so I ventured off my new island in search for more diet. Upon returning back to my new island, I only had one thing in mind: my new friends. As short-lived as our friendship was, I could only hope that they survived the assault. With the hope that they were still alive, I chose to stay on the island to grow a little more, retreating back to the hidden life I once lived when I was still a young baby Tenno. Some time had passed since I had seen my Tenno friends. I searched for them for a while around the delta, hoping that I could hear them one calling, just like I did all that time ago. However, I heard no one, I saw no one. I felt like I was destined to be alone. I was beginning to think that I would live a life in isolation, fearing that I would not be able to find another friend to share my life with. As the sun cleared the fog, I felt a sense of warmth. I believed that I wasn't the only Tenno on the island, and I decided that I would adventure away from my birthplace and go to another part of the island in hopes that I would be able to find another Tenno to befriend. In hopes that I had just mislooked, I went back one last time to where I had left my friend. I sat on the log I last saw them on and waited, hoping to see them gallop out of the bushes. However, as I sat and waited, only a small baby PT greeted me with a few pecks. Alas, they did not show up, as much as I held out hope. So I decided that it was my time to leave the Delta in my new search of finding more friends. I had finally reached Highlands. Seeing some dibbles in the area, I held out hope that I would be able to find Tennos as well. Seeing them walk with one another made me yearn for the day that I was able to do the same. And that's when I heard them. Tennos. I snacked upon some carbs and made my way towards the direction I heard the Tennos calling from, hoping they would still be there by the time I got there. To my delight, they were still in the area by the time I went towards the lake. We exchanged passing friendly calls, and we both went towards the mud pit that was nearby. I decided that I was going to drink some water before being on my way. That's when a not so friendly dino decided that they wanted to say hello in not the most secret way. Upon their failed grab, I gave them a little dance and went back to drinking. Until they tried to grab me once more, but again, it was a failure. They gave up after that, returning back into the depths of the water. After deciding that I wanted to move on, me and a couple of my newfound friends left to adventure off to new lands. After walking for a little while, we found ourselves at West Rail, encountering an adult Carno with its child. Wanting to claim the new lands we have come across for ourselves, we chose to advance towards them, warning them to stay away. After wandering around some more, we had found ourselves in South Plains. Upon looking back, I had realised that my curiosity of the island had made it so I had lost one of my new friends I had made. I could only hope that they were safe and were able to find another friend on their travels. Eventually, we found ourselves back at the lake in Highlands. As we turned around the corner, we saw danger looming at the end of the tunnel. Carnos. Typically, Carnos are small game hunters, their prey of choice being raptors, dilos, or even Petits. But we were Tenos. Our kicks can be lethal for a Carno due to how heavy our bleed damage can be. As we advanced, we were ready to fight, but were they? After sizing one another up, we continued towards their direction, showing no fear. However, in the distance behind us, a howl called echoed through the tunnel from another Tenno. Could this be the friend that we sadly left behind? We ran towards the calls in hopes that we were able to help whoever was signalling that they needed our aid. However, when we got to the Tenno, it seemed like they were fine. Thinking that they just saw us in the distance and was lonely, we agreed to befriend them and add them to our group. Through what felt like days of endless walking, hoping to find more fellow Tennos, we found ourselves at North Lake. However, I decided that I was going to put the Tenno to sleep and return the next day. Upon returning back, I wandered around getting my bearings of my surroundings, wondering what today would bring. While looking around, I was admiring the golden rays of the sunset shining over the hills of North Lake, seeing a stego nearby. After investigating the lands of North Lake, I realised the only thing that was around was the stego. So I decided to leave them to it and be on my way, saying goodbye with a broadcast. To my delight, however, another tenor called back. Just like when I was a small young tenor, my eyes lit up, and on my way towards the direction of the call I went. After walking some time, I decided to call back to them again, in hopes that I was walking in the right direction. They called back. I knew they were not far now, and I was eager to meet them. I arrived at port. After turning a corner, I finally found them. They greeted me with a friendly call, and I gave one back. I gave them a brief dance to thank them for calling back to my original call. As the way of life, one of them asked me if I was a female and if I was interested in nesting. I agreed. Knowing that I had lived a good and long life, the thought of bringing in new life and starting a family warmed my heart. While travelling to find a good spot for a nest, we encountered a human, a hypsy, and a galley. Now, you don't see humans that often. Typically, they are hiding away from the dinosaurs that inhabit the island. My new friends were very intrigued by this human, entering their control room to assess to see if they posed a threat towards us. The human, most likely terrified for their life, stared back at my friend, most likely hoping that a swift end to their life was not what was going to happen. Deeming the human friendly, I also had a look at him to make sure there were no threat. I too deemed them friendly, and off we went. After finding a quiet spot near some containers, we built our nest, and I laid my eggs. Once they were laid, I sat on them in order to keep them warm from the thunderstorm. Not too long after, they started to hatch. As they are still young, they relied on me and their father for food and water. Being a protective mother, when a human approached my nest with my hatchling still vulnerable, I did not hesitate. However, a human was the least of my worries when Sarahs approached my nest. We fought them off, however, I didn't think that would be the last I would see of them. Although I killed one of their kin, another human approached, but I chose not to attack. In matter of fact, my children grew fond of this human, befriending him. He crouched down to look at my offspring to have a closer look at them. However, in true human fashion, violence is all they know. After their father, who was fighting the Sarahs from earlier, told me that they were in trouble. I rushed over to aid them, knowing that this fight may be my last. Hey guys, thank you all so much for watching, and I really hope you enjoyed. And if you did, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, but also check out my Twitch. The link will be in the description below. Until next time, bye bye guys.